What's up guys, Dale here from Zephyr Wargames, bringing you a video you probably all want to know, and that is what is going to be the new meta. Now, without Zoo, with Draco, with them, both of them gone hit for the ban list, what is now going to take the #1 spot? Well, most of you might say that when Circuit Break hits it will be Spirals, but between then and now, what could possibly take the top spot? I'm bringing you 11 decks that I feel can certainly have a go at doing so, and we'll see kind of how it develops over the next coming month. So without further ado, I'm going to put these 11 cards together and we'll take you through the archetypes and explain why I've chosen these decks in my kind of 11. This isn't so much a 1 to 11 to 1 kind of space, these are just 11 options that I feel could still put up a massive fight. So, we'll start off with the Windwitch Invoked. So, Invoked kind of have, under Link they lost a little bit because they could no longer get an Indestructible Crystal Ring and a Mech Butt on board, which is still incredibly strong. However, an Indestructible Crystal Ring and a Mech Butt, just one or either of them on the board is always going to be scary and tough to deal with regardless. It will always be strong and it will always cause you issues, which is why it's definitely a deck that I think people should be looking into. Especially with the prices kind of slowing down, maybe the ban list might change that and put them back up, but it's still early days and they could still put up a massive fight. Next up, Cosmos. So Cosmos have always been around. They dipped in and out of the Zoo Draco format, but never really got the chance to dominate as well as they used to do. They're still a very, very strong deck with mainly their beaters in the main deck, and not needing to worry too much about Link. They can still put up a fight. So Cosmos is definitely getting an honourable mention for me there. Next up, Tricksters. So whether you play Tricksters with the Windwitch engine or whether you play for the whole FTK burn you out, even with new support coming in Circuit Breaker, between now and then, they can still put up a huge fight. Like, the FTK is scary. There's very little you can do unless you've opened up with a hand traps or anything like that. I do feel that they're a little bit unbalanced. If you try for the FTK build, it's a little bit harder to pull off. If you want to go for a bit more control build with the Wind Witches and stuff like that, it kind of lets your ability extend. It's an all or nothing kind of deck going for the FTK, but they are still an incredibly strong deck to play against and play themselves. Next up, Pendulum Magicians. Pendulum Magicians, I personally think, have got a huge, huge opportunity to take the top spot between now and Circuit Break, purely because A, they're really, really cheap to build, and B, with Wavering Eyes, they kind of got a plus. Yes, they took a step back in Link format, but they were still able to work around it. With the introduction of Wavering Eyes and Luster Pendulum Draco Slayer, there we go, at 2, they've kind of got a plus. So when they've taken a one step back, they've taken a step forward again, and they're kind of back where they were, which is still an incredibly strong deck. So I think they can put up a massive, massive fight and a push for that top spot between now and November. Now and the middle of October, sorry. Next up, ABCs. ABCs have always been a very, very good deck. They've never really dominated the meta or had their full chance in the sun, but they've always been quite good. Now in Circuit Break they do get a bit more support, not directly but indirectly, which makes them a little bit better. However, Buster Dragon is still a pain in the arse to deal with and can still cause you huge amounts of trouble. The fact that the deck is relatively cheap to pick up and build itself is also really, really cool if you can still get hold of the structure decks. I think ABCs are definitely going to be one of those big contenders out there. Next up, Twilight Swans, Light Swans, Zombie Swans, however you want to play it, some form of Twilights. Do I think they can put up a fight? Definitely. JD is always a scary boss monster coming from the main deck. Minerva being accessible to everyone also makes the deck more easier to build and cheaper to build as well. Twilights have kind of added a little bit to it, but we haven't seen enough from the Twilights to kind of give them their own full-on run, which is why any kind of format with a Twilight or a zombie kind of build, as long as Twilights are involved, or Light Swans are involved, sorry, are always going to put up a fight. And like I said, it is an incredibly luck-based deck, but Fairy Tale Snow being untouched from the ban list is a dangerous card. And JD, like I said, is also dangerous with their FTK ability, OTK abilities that way. So definitely Light Swans in at that one. Next up, World Chalice. Now, World Chalice still struggle from that main ability of not having a comeback going a game, which is why people are having to play stuff like Exodius and Jar of Avarice in the deck to kind of get the recyclability going. But they can still put up an incredibly strong board, especially with the introduction of Proxy Dragon. Firewall, if you have the money to spend on it at this moment in time, will then make it very, very accessible. But because it is one of its kind as a full-on link deck, it's still harder to kind of get your head around, and it's obviously heavily combo-based. But still, a very, very strong deck. If you can't break their board, you are in trouble, and they probably will finish you off next turn. Now I've got 2 trap-based decks and 2 like fan favourite kind of decks coming up next. So we'll start off with the fan favourite. We'll end with the fan favourite actually. So Chainburn. Chainburn's always going to kind of be doing good, unless as soon as their biggest weakness is getting a Denko dropped on them. You get Denko dropped on them, which is the exact same as the next ones, which I'll do as a pair, is Paleo Frogs. So we'll start with Chainburn. Chainburn is always going to be dangerous unless someone drops a Denko on you, which they're not going to be doing until game 2. And if you're a good enough player, you're going to be siding for that Denko anyway. You can burn your opponent out before they actually do anything, and the trap cards help stun them and stall them until the end of the game. Paleos. With the introduction of Starboy, or however the name came out in the special editions of Code that come out on Thursday, Paleos, not needing to worry about Masterpiece as much now, can still be incredibly, incredibly strong. Just like Chainburn, they rely on all their back row, but they can also turn their back row into monsters. With the introduction of Starboy or Masterboy, however it is now pronounced or titled, they still have the ability to make Shark and Toad, or Toad naturally if they want, and that is always going to be scary if you've got Toad and then traps that are going to disrupt you nonetheless. Now onto my final 2. I am a little bit biased on one of these, but on both of them they are still incredibly good. More so one for America than for the UK, but we'll start off with Blue Eyes White Dragon. Whether you go with a Chaos Max build or a pure build, they are both incredibly dangerous and strong to play around. They don't need to rely on link summoning as much, which is what they're massive plus for, and under a Chaos Max, a Piercer that does double damage is always going to be scary when you're facing it. Even though Kaiju still exists, it's still an incredibly strong deck. Finally, Dark Magician. Now here in the UK we still don't have, and in Europe we still don't have Apprentice Illusion Magician, so our American counterparts will obviously have an advantage in this, which is mainly why this has hit the list, and the fact that I'm a massive Dark Magician nut, as if you haven't seen before. I think Dark Magicians are incredibly fun and incredibly strong to play. Under Zoo and Draco format, they did have an issue with Masterpiece popping the Eternal Souls and the Circles quite freely, exactly the same with Dryden and all that stuff like that. However, under the new ban list, with the introduction of the Spellbook draw card, the consistency is kind of increased for Dark Magicians, and you can put the Windwitch engine into it too, as you've seen from some of my previous deck profiles. I think it is an incredibly fun deck to play. Circle and Navigation have become easily more accessible for us thanks to the releases in the Megatins, so it means everyone can start playing it. Yes, Apprentice Illusion Magician Gale is kind of targeted towards those that can afford it, unfortunately, at the moment in time. I think last time I checked, they were about $100 in America, and I personally don't think we'll get Apprentice Illusion Magician until the special edition of the set after Circuit Break. So mid-February next year is my personal bets on that one, maybe a little bit later, around March, April time. I still think it'll be a fun deck. I will be playing it, no doubt about that. I've got to love my Dark Magicians. So that is it. They are kind of like my 11 standout decks. If I have left any out, or if you think there are other decks that could also do some huge damage in the upcoming meta, please put them in the comments below. I always love hearing from you guys, and we'll kind of discuss going from there. We will be having loads of deck profiles coming up between now and all updates from the ban list until Circuit Breaker as well. Let's have a bit of fun while the meta is open until it gets locked back down with the next IT deck. So I hope we can all be creative. Hope we all kind of make some really, really cool decks, really, really nice combos. And until next time, guys, you know, like, comment, subscribe, share, and as always, happy dueling. If you like that video, why not check out our other videos available? We've got more deck profiles, pack openings, and of course, duels. And don't forget to click on the most important button of all, that subscribe button, right in the bottom left-hand corner.